Well, good morning, Coasties. It is Sunday morning. We were just listening to Heart Stops Beating by Joshua Micah. And yes, you are joining us here at Rhema Central Coast. Hope you're off to this, super day that is awaiting you with a heart that's ready to really kind of kick into gear and actually embrace a new opportunity, a new experience, and hopefully a great experience at that. Good morning, I am Lindy, and it is a joy again to be here with you this Sunday morning. I hope your week has been pretty good, and I hope that you are in for an even better week this week. We are on the wind down. It is crazy how much we really are this week in our house. Well, I'm not sure if I can pull it off or not, but we're hoping to celebrate what is actually Thanksgiving in America on Thursday. It's always the last Thursday of November. And it's a bit of an odd day for us, isn't it? Because we're still in the hustle and bustle of just doing life. Middle of week, it's a bit of a strange one to think on a Thursday, others call time out and say, hey, we're done. But anyway, that is what we will be doing this week. And I hope that you can take some time to really embrace the same idea. I know we're not America. I know we are Australia. Absolutely love this nation that we live in. And my goodness, we are so blessed to be here. Really, we are. We have got so much going for us. Even if there's decisions that are made above us or around us or amongst us that we think, I don't really sit comfortably with that. We live in a nation where we can function. We can still do our just normal everyday stuff. We have the freedom here to choose how we want to do things. And obviously God is sovereign. God overrules everything. But in the kind of just day-to-day stuff, we have got choices. We've got freedoms that we just need to be thankful for. We live in a nation that is just blessed in abundance with nature. I can honestly say just the need to explore is something that's been kind of kicking in for me just recently. I was looking for my passport this week because I kind of went, what did I do with that last? And my husband was like, "What? You're not going anywhere?" And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I need to explore. And then I suddenly thought, you know what? Even if we do it here in Australia, there is still so much to see. So we'll see what happens with that. But I kind of had this moment where I thought, yeah, we are just so blessed in abundance to be living in a nation that is just so vast. There's so much in terms of what is available to us. The resources, we are just oozing with resources in this nation. We are a very blessed nation. We've got plenty to be thankful for. And guys, next week we will cover that a little bit more, but this week we are going to be talking again. We're going to wind things off in a whole sort of God is series that we've been sort of covering over a few weeks now. And really, this is a bit of a twist of thinking in this one. So you might have to stick with me to kind of get your head around where I'm at. But I want to focus on the fact that God has actually given us some insight into who He is by looking at who we are. What do I mean by that? Well, Genesis is the first book in the Bible. If this is new to you, Genesis is indeed the first book of the Bible. And from the very beginning, God says to us through His word, these are the exact words we are told. So God created mankind in His own image. Male and female, He created them. Let me read that again. So God created mankind in His own image. Male and female, He created them. And that's Genesis 1:27. Guys, if we take a bit of a look at that, we've got a lot that we can learn about God. When we look at our interactions with each other and how we do things, the things that we look at the fruit of the Spirit that we see kind of flourishing in other people, we can see God. When we see our spouse in a certain light or a certain way, we can understand more about who God is. And isn't that cool? To think that we can use each other to learn more about Him. Stick with us. We're going to explore this as we go through this morning. Welcome back, guys. That was going to be good by Taya. Today, I hope and pray it is going to be good for you guys. And for myself, I hope we are off to a super Sunday. I do mean that. I hope we are well and truly headed towards something that's pretty fantastic. Fingers crossed, toes crossed, saying a big, big prayer that you are indeed off to something pretty fantastic. Good morning. Welcome to Rhema Central Coast. I'm Lindy. If you are new to Rhema, welcome. You are more than welcome to stick around for as long as you can. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you anytime that you can pop in and sort of just be a part of what's going on here. I do mean that literally as well. We open our premises to you guys to pop in and actually just see how we do things here. You are more than welcome. We have special days particularly for that. But if you're interested in just seeing how things play out, give us a call through the week and just say, hey, I'm interested. You know, I'd love to come and see what's going on here. Sometimes just being able to walk in the premises is huge. And I can honestly say, guys, whenever I walk in this building, there is just something very, very special about it. From the time you get to the front gates, you just kind of know, there's something really special about this. It's almost like there's this kind of, this is my perception of things, it just feels like God's kind of got it. It's like this is his special haven amongst the coast that can, you know, we send out, there's just so much that is kind of covered by God. I don't know how to explain it other than if you're amongst us, if you're kind of thinking, I wonder what goes on down there, by all means, just drop in and walk through the front doors and you will be well and truly greeted. You are more than welcome. Just give us a call, say, hey, is this a possibility today? I'm sure that whoever is around at the time would love to say good morning, good afternoon, whatever is going on for you. But yeah, anyway, sideswiped that one, didn't I? Yes. Now, having said that, we can also chat about the beauty of connection with each other. And we started this morning talking about, you know, it's a bit of a twist in thinking, but we are talking about how in Genesis, this is just where we're kind of going from at the moment, Genesis, you know, we are told that we are made in God's image. It's actually specifically Genesis 1:27. So God created mankind in his own image, male and female, he created them. And the reason that I emphasize this is because we are and have been talking about who God is. We've talked about all the different sort of traits of who he is, characteristics. Now, as I've said week in and week out, I'm not going to cover this, you know, thoroughly. There's going to be a lot of things that I miss because God is so big. He is so majestic. There is just so much to who he is. We can't cover that in a, you know, half an hour, sort of 45-minute segment of, you know, what happens here on a Sunday morning. It's just, you know, there's just not enough words. There really is not. But we can explore aspects as much as we can. And one of the things I want to tie things off today is the fact that God has pointed back to us understanding him more by looking at each other. And when we look at Genesis and we understand that God has, he's detailed it. We've got here in the beginning of the Bible that we have been created in his image. Now that he's specified there also male and female. So there's something very unique from the beginning where it says male and female both have characteristics and traits that are a reflection of who he is. Now that's pretty cool for us to kind of understand and grasp more and more of who God is simply by looking at each other and looking at how we are naturally designed. It's beautiful to be able to just go, okay, I can look at the boys across the road and go, cool, you guys have got some serious traits that I need to value. We had International Men's Day this last week. I felt terrible because I didn't actually know until late in the day. And I'm thinking, you know what? I've been hanging out with little boys all day. I've been hanging out with some men. I did not say, hey, guys, we value you. And we do value you. If you are a man who is listening right now, I just want to emphasize again, we cannot do life without you guys. Well, literally as well. But I just mean our society needs our men. And if you are a man or you're a young man or you're a boy, I just want to applaud you just because we need you guys. We need you. And I just hope and pray you understand your value and your worth because it really is, it's true. We really do need you. And for women, for girls, for, you know, just ladies being ladies, it's a beauty in that. When we look at the characteristics of who we just naturally are as girls, we are seeing reflections of who God is. And so I want to just examine that a little bit today. I want to kind of bring attention to it, because my encouragement then is for us to understand who God is. We need to be prepared to accept that we can see that amongst each other. We can see things about God by simply looking at the differences, even in our gender, even in the way that we are naturally designed. Not when we take control of it, not when we think, okay, this is who I'm going to become, or who I feel that I'm meant to be, but by the natural, from the foundation of who we are born to be. There's something about God that we can learn in how that interacts. It's a tricky one, because I have to navigate this really carefully too. But I just think, let's go back to the beauty of male and female, and just what an understanding that gives us to understand how God and who God is. There's something very special about it. Yeah, celebrate each other, because when we look at each other, not with the whole lens of, oh, but you do this and you do that, which we quite often from generation to generation have seen, when we lose that need to play against each other and instead play with each other and as champions of each other, something very special happens, because we firstly lift each other up. We build a stronger community. But more than that, we understand who God is. We understand more and more of who He is. And is that not the ultimate goal for us? To know more and more of Him. To know more and more of who He is. I'm going to leave that with you. And we'll be back before too long. Let's explore some more. And that was Walk with Jesus by Consumed by Fire. Good morning, guys. Welcome to Rhema CC. You indeed are joining us this beautiful Sunday morning. Hope you are having a great start and that you have been having a super duper week. And that really you're in for another super duper week to come. Guys, it is Sunday, as I said, and that means that we are like 2 weeks out. Well, really, not even that. It's kind of like, what date are we up to? 23rd today? Does that sound right? I hope that's right. I think so. Anyway, yes, 23rd. And that means we are like a week away from December. Crazy, I know. But you know what else is crazy is that we are still, in total awe of what God has done here on the coast. And specifically, what He continues to do here on the coast, and more than anything, what He is doing through Rhema CC. Because really, every day someone hears a word of hope. A scripture speaks. A song that heals. That is the power of Christian radio. That's what people are getting from what happens here at Rhema. But behind every broadcast is a community of believers who make it possible. Now, this November appeal is more than fundraising. It's faith in action. Your gift helps us to stay strong, to stay clear and focused, and to stay true. So really what we're asking for is a little bit of assistance to keep that voice of truth alive and really just out there. So let's keep it. Let's keep God's word alive on the coast. If you can visit our website or call now, your support really does matter. Rhema.cc, great place to start this Sunday morning. Call during the week if you can, if you're not able to jump on the website. And we would just love whatever support you guys can offer. And honestly, guys, you have been just so amazing in the way that you have backed us. You know, every time we've kind of put a call out there for a bit of help. And yeah, I'm no different here. We want to say thank you to those who've got behind us. We want to say thank you to those who are about to help us a little bit more. It goes a long way, so thank you. Guys, this morning we're talking about God is, but we're going to conclude things this week because God is far too big for us to comprehend. There's not a lot that we can, there's not a way that we can really condense and make things completely down to just a few weeks. We'd be here for probably every day and beyond, just trying to explain who God is. But this morning we've been talking about how God has assured us that He has made us in His image. So what does that mean? Well, firstly, we talked a little bit before about how that means specifically because He has in His Bible, it is His book, it's His book to us. He has specified that he has created us male and female in his image. There's a oneness in that. When we look at the unity of male and female and how he has created us to be, there's something really special because we can kind of grasp who he is by looking at us. But now I want to just stretch it a little bit more and think about and sort of throw out there for you guys the idea of our own personality traits, our own things that make us us. And more than anything, I want to throw out the question, what do you value in other people? What do you really appreciate when it comes to the relationships that you have and the people that you have in your life? What is it about them that you think, yeah, you're a solid yes, big tick? Why do you appreciate them? Now, some of the things I've kind of come up with through just a Google search, these are the sort of things that others have, obviously, in terms of a research sort of thing, have kind of put in as attributes that we value, us humans value. Integrity and honesty, dependability and reliability, trustworthiness. We value compassion and kindness. We value empathy. We value humility, gratitude, resilience, perseverance, adaptability, open-mindedness. So then, let me ask you this. If we look at God and we think, these are the things that we value in people, and God has told us then that we are built to be just like him, does that not mean that he must be some of these things too? I would say yes. The answer is yes. Yes to that. Integrity and honesty. The word is taught to us as the truth. It is the living word. It is the word that gives us an idea of how to function, how to live in our day-to-day. It shows us how to use wisdom. It shows us how to be, amongst whatever is going on and be able to do life. God has given us that. He has equipped us in knowledge of who he is by the words that he has given to us in his Bible, in his book. We value dependability and reliability. Well, who shows up when the days are dark? When the rest of the world has fallen apart, when we cry out to him, who shows up? It is God. And he responds, and he is there when we are in that desperation, when we're in that despair, he is there. And more than anything, trustworthiness. Let's just stick with this. I'm going to get into the deeper stuff, or an extension of what we've just been talking about in a little bit. But to kind of wind things up for this segment, trustworthiness. Do we trust God? Is God worthy of being trusted? Well, we have looked at that the last few weeks, really. We've talked about his faithfulness. He honors what he tells us, what he promises us. He follows through on the things that he has spoken to us or over us. We see it in generation, from generation to generation. We see it in the Bible stories that we reflect on. We see it in things like Noah's Ark. We talked about that a few weeks ago now. But God honors his promises to us, and he is worthy of being trusted. He's done what he has said he would do in terms of the way that he brought Jesus into the world to change things up so we could have a relationship with him. He continues to do what he promises. And so the things that we value in the people that are around us, we can see that they too are a reflection of the God that we are designed to be like. How cool is that? And there's a nice little, there's a kind of a weaving into where we're going from here, because that's just the start, guys. Let's keep going. I'll see you back here soon. And welcome back, Coasties. That was Home by Chris Tomlin. There is no place like home, is there? Seriously? Honestly, I just think there is no place like home. Certainly there's a lot of great places we could go or be around or be a part of, but there is definitely no place like home. And to think that this is just a glimpse of the big home, the real home, that's pretty spectacular to think. Guys, we are talking about God is, but we are kind of testing that sort of theory today. We're sort of flipping it with the understanding that God has told us that we are designed and created to be in his image. So when we look at who we are as people and the things that we value, then we have to think, well, does that mean that God is like that too? Now, what's the difference here? When you hear about other people saying, oh, I really value this person. They've got, great leadership skills. They're great at, they've been able to, like, oh, the business they do is just phenomenal. Like, you should see what they've been able to accumulate. Or they have been able to do really well in such and such a part of business. Or, they might have high accolades in terms of their achievements. It might be an academic thing, it might be all sorts of things. Now, they're not personality traits. They are things that person has accomplished. What I'm talking about here is the actual traits or the characteristics, the deep-rooted values that we have. I'm talking about the people that we are just naturally meant to be to the core. When we think of things like we talked about trust, a sense of trustworthiness, being able to rely on people, dependability, and knowing that we can be, we can just trust that person will respond to the things that they have promised us. We can see that God is the same. Now, interpersonal traits that Google has popped up for me to say that we humans tend to value. These include compassion and kindness, empathy, humility, and gratitude. They're the top ones that have come up. So compassion and kindness. Can we get and understand God to be a God of compassion and kindness? You bet we can. Absolutely. In fact, if you look at in your own life, you look at the way that he has weaved his way through. If you know God, you know that he is a God of ultimate compassion. He is a God of kindness. He is a God who meets us in the middle. When things are not good, he's there. He turns up. And more than that, he turns up in a way that humans just don't. So when we think of people, our best friend who we can say, oh yeah, they're there for me with everything. Are they really? Are they really there when we think we really need something or someone? Because the difference is that God is there. We have to obviously play our part in that, but we can trust that he is a God of compassion. He's a God of kindness. He blesses even in those moments that are really, really hard, that are just, they're pretty mind-boggling. He is an empathetic God. He's a God who has been there. Jesus walked the planet. He walked the globe, guys. He walked through, parts of the world that are still pretty, messy. And they were at the time that he was born. There's people are people, and people make things messy. But he understands it. Understands it. He understands because Jesus himself walked amongst it. And yet he had empathy for those who were impacted by the social society and structures of the time. He still is empathetic to what we go through and the situations that we are placed in. God is a God of humility. Think of Jesus. He was never boastful. He was never, look at me, look at me. In fact, he wanted everything to be done under the radar. It was, I'm willing to share this with you. I am the way, the truth, and the life. But it was a case of, I'm not telling you this to boast. I'm telling you because I want to give you hope. God is humility, and we can see that through Jesus. Gratitude. Gratitude is something that we value in others speaking into us. And selfishly, I think sometimes there can be the opposite, where we can be looking after our own mental, spiritual, emotional health by being thankful. It can be a bit of I don't even know how to word this, but it can be a bit of a selfish but self thriving thing as well. But I don't think God's sense of gratitude in enjoyment of the things that we do for him, or the way that he has designed the world, I don't know that they are the same, but we can get a glimpse of who he is in terms of in terms of the way that we are a reflection of him. We value the thanks. God values the thanks. But I would say that it probably means more when his kids come home and they say, thank you, God, for loving me, even when I just didn't get it right, even when I was messed up. And plenty of us have been there. If you are still in that, guys, if you are still not quite there yet, and you are ready to come home to him, you're ready to get to know him again, the sense of gratitude and the willingness for you to say, I understand, God, that you get it better. Your way is much better than mine. It's huge. And we can do that with thanks because God is good. And God is a God who, he blesses us. He gives thanks to us when we stand up for him. I don't think it's the same context. I think it's different. I think it's a different sort of thanks. But I do really believe that God is behind us, patting us on the back to say, I appreciate you continuing on when the world makes it hard for you to stand up for me. And that there is a gratitude in that. I know that I'm not backing things up with scripture today, guys. I'm being very kind of aware of the time that I've got because it's only, so much I can give each week. But I want to challenge you to look into it yourself and this, examine this stuff for yourself. Do the Google searches. If you're not someone who's overly confident with the Bible, even just start with the Google searches. God is a God of gratitude. Is he really? All these sorts of searches you can just pop in and go, yeah, is this actually right? Is God this? And I'll guarantee that there's probably things that you'll find that you go, did not see that, but yes, I can see how God is showing us that by looking at each other and the things that we value in each other, we can understand more and more about who he is, who you, God, are. I'm going to leave it there, guys. It's a big concept, so I'm trying to get my head focused as I'm talking as well. But yes, it's a big one, and yet it simplifies it all in one sort of snapshot. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, back before too long to kind of wind things off with the last few little bits of things that we tend to value in each other and sort of cross-examine them in terms of, questioning, does God actually mean what he says when he says that we are a reflection of him? Anyway, see you in a sec. And welcome back, Coasties. That was Never Been a Moment by Micah Tyler. You are joining us here at Rhema CC, and I am so thankful that you are. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I'm Lindy. I'm your Sunday morning host here each week, and we are about to kind of close things up. I've been here since about 7. I'm about to leave for the day, but before we do, we just want to just kind of close things off with a bit of a concept of what we've been discovering today and sort of exploring and almost cross-examining. So my thinking was, as we close up this whole idea of God is, that if God is promising us that we are, designed to be in his image, we are designed to be a reflection of him. We are designed in his image, and we've been told that in Genesis, so right back at the beginning of the Bible. If that's the case, then maybe there's some things that we can consider when we think about our own personal attributes that we value as a humanity. Now, I've just done a bit of a Google search, and we've sort of been exploring this, in different sort of aspects this morning. And one of the things that it was kind of, when I did my little Google search, it came up with a few different I guess you could call them segments of personality traits or things that we value in each other. So it came down to core values, interpersonal traits, and resilience and growth, the things that we value in each other in this way. According to Google, resilience, perseverance, adaptability, and a sense of being open-minded are all things that we as a human race tend to value. And so I looked at that. I've looked at that now, and I'm thinking, as I'm talking to you guys, do these meet hand in hand with who God is? Now, certainly a lot of this goes back to who we have explored at different, God to be at different points over the last few weeks, really. Resilience. We have certainly talked about how God is, he's omnipresent. He's able to be in a lot of different places at a lot of different times and a lot of different situations and circumstances. God is not bound by the limitations we humans have. So in that way, we are different. And yet, we can understand that his sense of resilience, to not be knocked around and it's all too hard, he just turns up, is pretty phenomenal. And I would have to say this goes hand in hand with a sense of perseverance. He shows up. He really is just when we call out to him, he promises that he's there, and he is. And that's a very cool trait that we can hold on to in terms of knowing that our God is a God who is, firstly, resilient. He does not get put out. Secondly, he's a God of perseverance. Nothing is too much for him. He's adaptable. He'll just make and move how he needs to go with our hearts, with our minds, with our challenges, with the obstacles that come up against us. He knows how to make things work, and honestly, much more fluently and just so well thought out in a way that we humans, we would like to think we can, but we don't really usually get there too often compared to his ways. His ways are not our way. His ways are definitely not our ways. And there's some value and some true respect that we have to hold in that. We have to understand that his ways are just so much more accurate and mind-blowing. They're just so much better than what we can come up with. But again, when we look at the human traits, we go, we as a people, we value resilience. We value those that get back up when things are too tough. We value those who persevere, who show up regardless of what sort of things are getting to them or making things hard. We value those who are adaptable, who make changes as things kind of roll. And finally, we value those who are open to the ideas of other things. Other ways of doing, life. And when we are talking about God and we're talking about the way that we have a relationship with him, every one of us have a different way of communicating with him. We have a different way of worshipping him. We have a different way of connecting with him. Most of us have, some of us are drawn to scripture. Some of us are drawn to prayer just by naturally just having that connection with him. Some of us stand in creation and take it in and go, my goodness, how did this just happen? We have our own intimate way of connecting with God, and yet we can be open to others who celebrate God in a different way to us, who connect to God in a different way to us. These are the things we value. And yet God is willing to flip that and say, I am all of these things that you guys value. You can see more and more of me by simply understanding who you guys are. Understand the traits that you have, and you will learn more and more about me. And that's such a cool thing. God is showing us in our everyday who he is through each other. Guys, this week, I pray that you can make the most of that. I pray that you can spend some time getting to know people who are not in your everyday world, who stretch you, who help you to understand more and more of who God is. And the fact that there are so many traits that we as humans just naturally carry. We can learn more and more about God based on those. It's a big concept. It's a concept that does take a need to be open-minded. You do need to be thinking, hang on. Got to get my head around this. But it is true. We can learn so much more about God simply by just getting to know each other. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here because it is getting close to 10 o'clock. Guys, we have church on the radio at 10. If you are going to be sticking around, that would be fantastic. If not, if you're on your way to church, I hope you're having a great day. Get to know some of those in your world that you are not overly comfortable with or just overly confident with. You might be someone who's not very confident just talking to a new person. My challenge is get out there and push yourself that little bit harder. Resilience, that's apparently something we all value. Perseverance is something we value. So get amongst it, learn something about them and learn something about God in the process. I'll see you guys next week. Have a super, super Sunday, and thank you for joining me yet again. I will see you next week. Have a great one, guys, and plenty of love and prayers coming your way. See you then.